Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for another episode of Mind Your Puckin' Business with your host, Jeffrey Krentzman.
Thank you, Dougie Sticks. Good morning. How are you?
I'm a little cranky, and you know why.
I know. Cranky, although the majority of the show will probably be for happy reasons today.
Nice. Yes.
Coming to you, as always, for the beautiful studios of Undefeated Media here in Bergen County, New Jersey. This is the Mind Your Puckin' Business podcast, brought to you by our good friends at the Bamboozle Project and Allied Construction and Roofing. And again, we encourage you to check out both those companies. But if you do check out the Bamboozle Project, make sure you use promo code MYPB for 25% off. This is episode number 77, which would be kind of like a little good luck jackpot theme, maybe.
Yeah.
A little hint there going forward. That is episode number 70 y siete on the Spanish dial. So we welcome you for that. You can send your questions at any time, as always, to mypbshow@gmail.com. You can also do what the majority of people seem to do who want to submit questions, and that is send them to us via DM on our Instagram page.
Yes, sir.
Which feel free to do so at any time. And you can listen to us today, tomorrow, whenever you like, on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, and Facebook.
Absolutely.
And you can hear me okay over there, right? Because there's something up with my mic over here.
I hear you
headphones,
good.
But as long as you
I
hear
can
me
crank
good.
you up a little bit. You want to be cranked up a little bit?
As long as you can hear me.
Yeah.
As long as you can hear me fine, we are good. So, well, obviously we know where we're going to jump into today and where we're going to start, and that is with the New York Rangers. So I there's a bunch of different ways we could do this, and so Sunday night after Game 7, I was like, wow, there's a million things I want to say, go through, and then last night when I started to kind of map it out, I was like, wow, this is a little bit harder than I thought. So here's what we're going to do: we're going to go through this in chronological order of events.
Okay.
And we'll go through it all step by step that way. So a week ago today, right now, we're sitting in these seats, and the Rangers are down 3-1. They had a brutal Game 4 in Pittsburgh. And really, the mindset of any Ranger fan at that point is, look, if you're down in a series 3-1, as we said, you just go one game at a time. You win Game 5, then you go for Game 6, and you go for Game 7. And I had said that there was in my thought, there would be about a 10% chance it would happen. I did see a stat last night that there was odds last week at this point of what would have happened, and it was 7%. So I wasn't that far off. So Game 5, Wednesday night at the Garden, the Rangers are down 3-1. They need to win to extend the series, right? Your back's against the wall in elimination. They played for a period and a half in that game, as terrible as you could be. And I was at the point where I was just like, it's over. This team is not even now showing up in an elimination game. Like, they're not even showing signs of life when their back's against the wall, and just was awful. And the Rangers then get 3 quick goals. They get the lead. The Garden goes rocking. And then as this series has been, and I have a question for you about this, but as the series has been, the Penguins come right back, score a goal, tie it at 3. And this series really became a great example. And I want to illustrate this for people maybe like yourself that are getting more into hockey now. The playoffs and series in general are a roller coaster of emotions, right? How many times in the last 2 weeks with this Penguin series were you high, were you low, were you up, were you down? It is an NHL playoff hockey is just, especially when you look at it over the course of a full 7-game series, is complete momentum swings. So the Rangers in Game 5 give it back. It's 3-3. They end up winning the game on a goal by Philip Hedl. In the third period, he scores the winning goal. And if you've listened to this show, I have not been a big Philip Hedl supporter over the year or years, but he had a very good Game 5. He has scored the game-winning goal, and he did score, and he did have a pretty good series overall. So they win the game, right? Yes. Now, they win. They go to Pittsburgh for Game 6, but there's all this thing with the Sidney Crosby hit from Jacob Trouba. Now, I want to get into that because, look, one thing that I have tried, and I think I told you this the first day that we ever met, and see, now I really can't hear my headphones on. Now, you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
We're good. All right, as long as you can hear me. So one thing I said, and I think I told you this when we met way back in August of 2020, when we talked about doing this show, was that I was going to be objective and fair. I don't want to come on here and just say the Rangers are going to win the Stanley Cup every year. They're going to go 82-0 and the refs are terrible and all that. The Jacob Trouba hit on Sidney Crosby that knocked him out was legal. I know Pittsburgh fans are screaming about it, and they spent Mike Sullivan in the post game in Game 5, but it was a legal hit. And here's what you need to know: the league the next day has to make a decision. Are we going to take Jacob Trouba, who hit Sidney Crosby, and have a hearing to, go over, hey, is there a possible fine? Is there a possible suspension? The Rangers were notified right away Thursday morning from the league. There would be no phone call. There would be no hearing, meaning it clearly was a legal hit. The league goes out of its way to protect Sidney Crosby more than anybody in the league. This is the playoffs. If they had any chance, any sort of evidence that this was a dirty hit, there would be a hearing, there would be a suspension, or they would wait a couple days to announce it. They instantly said no. So
it didn't even look that. It didn't even look that bad.
The puck was there, and unfortunately for Sidney Crosby, and over the years he's good at this, but on this particular play he wasn't. His head was down, if you look. So it was not a dirty play. Now look, if this had happened to a player on the Rangers, would I be annoyed? Yes, of course I would. But it was not an illegal hit. We don't sit here and wish for opponents to get injured. We root for opponents to not do well, but we don't root for them to get injured. It was a legal hit. So you leave Game 5, and really a game, let's be fair, Doug. You're down 3-1. You're going home. Your backs are against the wall. You should win Game 5. If you go out in 5, I mean, at that point, my thought process Wednesday night, watching the beginning of that game was, you know what? They didn't deserve to even be in the, they didn't deserve to win the series if you go out in 5.
Yeah.
So they win and they go to Game 6 in Pittsburgh. Now, Friday night, again, like it seems to be in all these games this series with the Rangers had a terrible start. They're down 2-0 at the end of the first period and really did not look good. And it was frustrating to watch that first period because, again, your backs are against the wall. You have Louis Domingue in goal, who is not a good goalie. He's a third-string goalie. And the Rangers are struggling to even get offense going. And Igor Shesterkin in that period, although in the first period had a couple good saves, really does not look anything like he had been during the course of the season. So they're down 2-0, but again, the series, momentum swings. Evan Rodriguez takes a stupid penalty for Pittsburgh up 2-0 in the offensive zone, and that changes the entire game. Now, Evan Rodriguez was a player. Now, most people, if you follow hockey, you don't know Evan Rodriguez unless you're playing him. I happen to know who he was because he went to Boston University, which is where I went to college. So I do kind of quasi follow the BU hockey team from afar. But I know who he is because he actually happened to be at BU the year that one of your good friends was there named Jack Eichel.
Nice.
So they played together at Boston University. So I know who Evan Rodriguez is. But what just a complete stupid penalty to take. 5 seconds off the ensuing faceoff, the Rangers win the draw. They get it to Zibanejad. He scores, makes it 2-1. Zibanejad then scores, I think, like a little over a minute later. It's 2-2. Now, again, right, you've come back. You've tied the game at 2. Where are we going here? Momentum, right? Momentum. You got the momentum back. Well, now, Igor Shesterkin makes a play that is, unbelievable. He takes the puck behind his net, passes it across 3 zones on the stick to Mika Zibanejad, who comes in on a breakaway and misses. But thankfully, Chris Kreider is there following up, and the Rangers make it 3-2, right? All the momentum in the world. You have the lead now, right? And the fans in Pittsburgh, who, while it was annoying to hear them chant Igor the entire game, I give them credit, right? They're into the game, right? It's annoying. It's what you want. Ranger fans do it to opposing goalies too. It's just it's annoying when you hear it against your own team. But you give them credit, and the crowd is silent. And then Jacob Trouba makes a play that is, when you coach youth sports, okay? And I'm fortunate that I've gotten to do it with my kids, not hockey, but I'll take soccer, for example, because I've coached that with my kids. One of the things you teach kids, like the first skill, other than, you can't use your hands, you don't kick the ball into the middle, right? On defense, right? You don't. You use the outside. This is 101 stuff in hockey too, right? I mean, this is like you go to a 6-year-old clinic and this is what they're teaching you. Jacob Trouba, for some reason on this play, decides to make a cross-ice pass that Evgeny Malkin picks up, takes in for the breakaway, and it's 3-3. And you're thinking to yourself, you had all the momentum, right? And then you gave it back on a stupid freaking I'm not a penalty. It's just a stupid play. Like, what are you doing throwing it in the middle? And I believe it was shorthanded too. So, just was Completely aggravating. So they go into the third period. Now, the third period, I said to my wife, who was watching the game with me, that you know, it's 3-3, your season's on the line, it's late in the game. This is always the type of game the Rangers lose. You can be a Ranger fan, you can be a Ranger fan for like 80 years, and if you expect that you're going to walk out of here in an hour when this game is over, and you're going to be happy and thinking that there's going to be a game 7, you're wrong. Because Ranger hockey is, you lose on some fluke goal, the goalie screened, you know, right into overtime, or like game 1, they make you sit through 3 hours of excruciating overtime just to lose, like something, and your season's over on a Friday. Like it had all the makings of it. And then one of the things came true that we've talked about here, and we talked about it last week, and that is you are playing a third string goalie, right? He is a third string goalie for a reason, right? If he was better than a third string goalie, guess what? He would be a starter on the team, or he would be a backup. Tristan Jarry is their starter. Casey DeSmith, who played in game 1 before he got hurt, was their backup. Louis Domingue is a third string goalie. He used to play about 20 miles from where we taped this show in Newark for the Devils, and he was awful. He is not good. So what do you want to do? You throw the puck at the net. You take shots. You don't know what's going to happen. And Chris Kreider takes what really was the most harmless slap shot from the blue line, unobstructed view. The goalie's not screened, and he just bobbles it and goes up over his head. And in what then time freezes, right? As a Ranger fan, you're watching the puck in the air, and I swear it was in slow motion when I go back into the moment. You're watching it go up in the air in slow motion. And the defenseman from Pittsburgh tries to jump in to quickly bat it out of the air before it goes past the line, and thankfully doesn't do that. And it was a terrible goal. But this is what you need to do when you're playing a bad goalie. He's a bad goalie for a reason.
Do you remember the video I sent you? It wasn't that goal, but it was like the next game with Domingue, and like the shot comes and he's like.
Yeah. He's not a good goalie.
He flinched. It was massive flinch.
So shoot the puck at the net. So they get it to 4-3, and then I'm like, you know what? Momentum. There's a minute left. They got to get out of here and get to a game 7. And of course, something's going to go wrong. Something's going to happen, but it did not. And the Rangers add an empty netter and go 5-3. So now you're going into game 7. Now, very suspicious after the game in game 6 and the following morning at the Pittsburgh skate on Saturday, where word kind of came out that Sidney Crosby, who had a concussion, was now miraculously a really good chance to play in game 7, which is odd because you can hate Sidney Crosby, which I do. We don't exchange Christmas cards. I'm just telling you that. But I do give him respect for all the years that he's played in the league, that he's been very cognizant of his concussion problems, and he doesn't, rush back. He sat out for extended periods of time because players have a life once they retire, right? They want to be able to enjoy it, not be fully concussed.
Yes.
So it made no sense to me that Sidney Crosby could possibly play in game 7. Like, I thought, you know what? It's gamesmanship. They're trying to just spark the team. But the team has been told privately, Sidney Crosby's not going to play. There's no way. Now, it also came out that Tristan Jarry might play, which didn't surprise me because you had a situation there with Tristan Jarry where you saw what happened the night before with Louis Domingue on the goal. How much worse could Tristan Jarry be, even though he hadn't played in a month battling a foot injury? So you go into game 7 on Sunday. And as a Ranger, this is what I said to somebody Sunday afternoon at my son's sporting event who asked me about my thought. I said, it's game 7, so anything can happen, right? In any sport, you play one game, right? Look at Super Bowl upsets through the years, one game, anything. March Madness, St. Peter's this year, we'll use it. Anything can happen, right? St. Peter's, Kentucky, right? But I said, look, the way the momentum is in this series, they should win. Does it mean they will? No, it will not. So game time decisions, Jarry is in, Crosby is in, as we all kind of thought, I guess, although I was surprised on the Crosby thing. But Crosby was not going to be 100%. If you had a concussion and a neck injury 4 days prior, you can't tell me that you're 100%. Now, in 80% Sidney Crosby or whatever it was going to be, it's still better than a lot of people at 100%. I get it. But Sidney Crosby was good in the game, but he wasn't great. You could tell he wasn't himself.
Yeah, but once you get the juices flowing, it's a concussion. It's not like a broken ankle. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah. No, I get it. And if you're out there, I mean, look, you're going to go full throttle. However, if the mindset is not 100%, the mindset's not 100%. So game 7, Rangers get on the board early there with Kreider on the goal, go up 1-0. And then Jacob Trouba, who we got on for the pass in game 6, has to be one of the dumbest penalties I've ever seen. You're up 1-0 in a game 7, and he took a 4-minute high-sticking double minor in the offensive zone. I mean, it's just like mind-blowing. Mm-hmm. Pittsburgh scores on the power play. They go up 2-1 on a goal. And this goal that got reviewed. Now, again, I'm going to be fair. This is what I do. And if you watch the game with me, I even said this in the time, so I'm not saying this just, after the fact because they won. I did not have a problem with them allowing the Jake Gensel goal with the high stick. I thought it was close, but I thought the ruling on the ice was probably right from the viewpoint the ref had, which was a goal. So then you would have had to have definitive evidence to overturn it. And I didn't see definitive evidence. So I was texting people in the moment saying, look, the goal is going to count. And it did. So they go up 2-1. Andre Miller, same theory here. Throws the puck at the net. It hits a Pittsburgh guy, hits another Pittsburgh guy, skating goes in. It's 2-2. You get lucky, right?
Yeah.
Philip Hedl then makes a really bad play. Again, 101 hockey. Throw it in the middle. And this guy, Evan Rodriguez, comes in on a breakaway, and I give him credit because it was a really nice goal. He had a defender on him and somehow found a way to get it over Shesterkin's shoulder to go up 3-2. And now the Rangers, you go into the third period. There's about 5 minutes left. I'm starting to think in my head, you know what? It's not going to happen. And I start preparing my 8-year-old son for this and saying to him, buddy, it's already May 15th. The offseason's only 3.5 months. Ranger hockey will be back soon, right? Like trying to lessen the blow of what I'm going to have to deal with because I'm going to be annoyed, but then he's going to be upset, and I got to deal with it. So Mika Zibanejad scores, ties it at 3, and you go to overtime. Now, game 7 overtimes, complete flip of a coin. Let's be real, right? If you tell me that you were confident going into overtime on a fan of either team, you're lying because you're not. And being me, the eternal pessimist, the glass is half empty, I'm convinced that not only are they going to lose, but they're going to lose after they made me sit through that for 4 overtimes and my kids were up till 1 in the morning. Thankfully, Artemi Panarin had a different idea. Now, one thing I haven't really seen written about, and I was surprised, was that the Rangers got a power play in overtime. It was a holding penalty, but when you're in game 7, a lot of times, understandably, the refs will kind of, swallow the whistle, if you will, and not call a lot. In this situation, though, the Rangers got a power play where they didn't really look that great, and then 10 seconds left, Artemi Panarin, who really, I'm going to be honest, has had a really bad series to date, even though I'm wearing his jersey today, if you're following us on the camera feed, scores on a wrist shot that I've seen this goal now like 95 times, and I'll watch it another 100, by the way. That's how sad my life is. And I still can't figure out how the puck goes in. Like when you see it, there's no real viewpoint from behind the net of the path the puck takes to go through the defenseman and past Tristan Jarry. The Rangers end up winning the series, obviously 4-3. So the marketing department of the New York Rangers says, about a month ago, or actually it may have even been more than that the saying with this team has been this entire season, no quit in New York. And, it's been true that this team just does not quit. In this series, being down 2 goals in game 5 in an elimination game, being down 2 goals on the road in game 6 in an elimination game, being down by a goal in the third period with 5 minutes left in an elimination game, coupled with all the facts that the Rangers came back a bunch this year from third period being behind, this team does not quit, and the no quit in New York. So
the penalty, when the announcers were saying that was a penalty shot, he should have gotten a penalty shot.
It could have been, but I said
not in the game 7.
Not in the game 7. There's no way. And I said this while they had the late penalty. I said this to my wife. I said, "There's no way he's getting a penalty shot." It was close. You could argue that it could have been, but you could also argue that it wasn't. But then you figure in that it's game 7. It's not going to happen. So, all right. So the series ends. The Rangers win 4-3. I think there's a lot of great things that come out of this series. There's also some things that are concerning as we look to series the next series, which we'll do in a minute. So let's focus on the good stuff first. Mika Zibanejad, 7-game series, 3 goals, 8 assists, 11 points. Chris Kreider, 7 points in the series. Adam Fox, 10 points in the series. very good. Now, Mika Zibanejad was very point heavy on the back end of the series, but it doesn't really matter. I guess you'd rather him be good in game 6 and 7 than 1 and 2. So, some really good playoff performances there. I thought that Adam Fox was very good in the series. I thought that the Rangers struggled not having Barclay Goodrow. Barclay Goodrow, who was signed in the offseason from Tampa, was really signed because he had for his Stanley Cup playoff experience and then gets hurt in game 1 and wasn't there. So that does hurt. There is a chance, from what I understand, he will be back in game 2. But if you know anything about the NHL and hockey injuries, teams do not disclose anything at all. I mean, it almost is a joke if you try and get information. Ryan Strome had an atrocious series. If the Rangers had lost this series and we're doing this show today, which would have kind of been like a recap of the season, not a good theme show, if you will, I would be killing Ryan Strome right now. Ryan Strome was a free agent in the offseason, and we've talked about this with guests in the last couple of weeks. Really, his contract to an extent was going to be determined by how well he does in the playoffs. He's going to not write his own contract, but he's going to have a say in the sort of contract he gets. He was awful. I mean, and not even just point-wise. He would be losing faceoffs, critical faceoffs in the offensive end. I mean, he just really had a terrible series. I don't know if something is up with Ryan. I mean, maybe he's hurt, but Ryan Strome, thankfully, as a free agent, is going to have another round to at least prove himself, and let's hope he does. Artemi Panarin, up until the moment where he scored the goal, I thought had a really bad series too. He was hurt the last week of the season. I think whatever the injury is, and again, hockey players, they either say he has an upper body injury or a lower body injury. The rest from there you can guess. But I do think that Artemi Panarin is still possibly hurt a bit. A lot of instances in the series, and way more than one, he was hesitant to shoot, where in previous times, if he was in that position with the puck, he would shoot. Thankfully, though, of course, on Sunday night in game 7 in overtime, he decided to shoot that puck. So the other thing a couple of things. So Nemeth, I was
about to ask you about your friend Nemeth.
So the big wigs at Undefeated Media decided to put up a clip of me on my Patrick Nemeth rant last week. So thank you for that. And Nemeth was then healthy scratch. So I'm sure Gerard Gallant doesn't listen to our show, but apparently they are in agreement with what I said. So I think, can't even imagine a situation where he plays again this season unless you were dealing with injuries or something like that and you had no one else. I think that experiment is over. One thing that the Penguins did, and I think it's something that you're going to have to watch going forward, and I'm assuming this was part of Mike Sullivan's game plan here, or two things rather. In the Rangers' defensive end, so many goals in this series were scored from right in front of Shesterkin. Rebounds. Jeff Carter in game 6 comes to mind. Rebound goals. Gensel, the one in game 7 the other night. It seemed like they were crashing the net. And go ahead. You want to say?
And lazy clears.
Right. Lazy clears. The Rangers had trouble, and that is a good lead in a minute, because the Rangers really this series struggled with getting the puck out of their defensive end on numerous occasions. What you don't want to play when you struggle is a team that is going to forecheck you like crazy in the offensive end, because that will make that problem more glaring. And that's what Carolina does. So we're going to get to that in a minute. But the other thing that the Pittsburgh seemed to do on the Rangers' offensive side of the puck was they really forced the Rangers to keep the puck to the outside. And I felt like the Rangers, who struggled to shoot, another Instagram clip that went up was Ranger Hockey 101 with me last week, saying that they're not shooting the puck. I think the Rangers were a little bit lost because they couldn't get the puck in deep in all series. Pittsburgh really did a good job of keeping the Rangers' offensive game to the perimeter. And the Rangers sometimes didn't seem to know what to do, like Panarin, as I talked about, being a little hesitant with the puck. So that's something to look at. So we'll wrap up round 1 and say this. I mean, it's a mentally exhausting 2 weeks, right? That's one series, right? I mean, and game 7s, I say this all the time to people. Game 7s are awesome when your team is not involved. When your team is involved, it is just not. Yes. It's not fun at all. I mean, it can be fun, but it's also excruciatingly painful to sit through. So we give them credit. They move on. They battled. Again, one thing that whatever happens from here on out, this team, this whole no quit in New York mantra that they have is really true. They just battle and battle, and they don't care what the scenario is. They keep coming back at you. So makes you think that maybe there'll be a hard out. Oh, one other thing to mention in the series, Igor Shesterkin, of course. How could I forget this? So Igor Shesterkin certainly in the series was not all world. He was in game 1 when he had the 70+ saves. But other than that, he didn't play well in Pittsburgh, but he did have some big saves in some key moments, particularly in game 7 the other night. He had a couple saves in the first and second period to keep that game either 1-0 as well. So we'll see what happens with him. So going forward, I have said for a long time, it is no secret, I'm not saying anything here that's breaking news or anything like that. The one team, if I was a Ranger fan, I really don't want to play in the playoffs is the Carolina Hurricanes. So, Dougie Sticks, tell me, who do the Rangers play next round?
The Carolina Hurricanes.
Here we go. So, the Rangers match up in round 2 in the Eastern Conference. This would be the Eastern Conference semifinals with the Carolina Hurricanes. And we'll get to the other series in the Eastern Conference in a little bit, which will be a battle of the Sunshine State in Florida with the Tampa Bay Lightning going up against the President's Cup winning Florida Panthers. So, the Hurricane series. So as I mentioned a minute ago, I think that this team, Carolina, keeps coming at you, right? They play a speed game. That is the system that their coach Rod Brindamore, who was a player back in the day I used to hate because he used to play for the Flyers. It is a system that they play that will drive you nuts if you cannot quickly exit your defensive zone, and that is something the Rangers struggled with. So I think it's going to be interesting now to watch these games. And one thing that's going to tell you if this is an issue is the disparity in shots, right? If the Rangers are getting outshot 45-26 while they're having trouble getting the puck out of the defensive end, the puck is in their end a lot. So, Igor Shesterkin, I mean, I'm not saying anything here that is that a elementary student probably couldn't say, is going to hold the big key to the series, right? Because it's the playoffs and your goalie really needs to play well, but he's going to really need to play well because he's going to get a lot of action there. The Rangers during the regular season played Carolina 3 times. They lost 3 of the 4. And the only time that they won, they did not deserve to win because they were outshot by, I believe it was almost over 30 shots. And Georgiev had 42 saves back in that game in March. So prediction-wise, what do you think?
We're going all the way, baby. No, we just got to play. We got to play faster.
We have to play faster. So it's hard for me. And so the way that the schedule works here in this series, when we're on next Tuesday, it'll be the day of game 4 because so the Rangers, in this series do not have home ice. They will go to Carolina tomorrow, Wednesday, and Friday night. And then they will be back at the Garden on Sunday for a matinee. And then game 4 will be Tuesday when we'll be on in the morning. So you would like to think at that point that the series will be 2-1 someone and not 3-0. I mean, unless it was the Rangers, but I think it's unlikely. Man, so prediction-wise, look, I am going to have I try to be honest here. I really do. So it's going to be very hard for me to pick the Rangers, so I'm not going to do that.
Wow.
I want them to win. I want to be wrong. But if I'm going to sit here and give you my unbiased opinion, I'm not going to sit here and say, well, they're going to play the team that I was fearful they were going to play for once, and I think they're going to sweep them. Here's what I think. If you're the Rangers, okay, here's how you win this series. Let me do it this way. I'm going to pick.
How do you win?
I'm going to pick the Let me do my prediction, and then I'll do that. The Hurricanes. I'm going to say the Hurricanes in 6. Okay. I don't think it's the Rangers can steal the series though. It wouldn't be the greatest upset ever. It wouldn't be the U.S. team beating Russia in 1980 if the Rangers won the series. But how can the Rangers win this series? The Rangers can win the series this way. Igor Shesterkin gets back to his old ways and plays out of his mind, and they can obviously win the series. I think they need to get continued production from Zibanejad and Kreider, who not only did they have production in the series, but they had higher production on the back end of the series. So hopefully they can keep that wave going. I think also the kid line of Hedl and Lafreniere and Kakko really had a good series. If that line plays well again and can also develop, gets some points on the board and score some goals, that would be an enormous help because it alleviates some of the pressure from your top line. Ryan Strome needs to come back to earth here. I don't think Andrew Kopp really overall had a great series either. The other thing that would be very helpful for this team is if Barclay Goodrow's back from his injury. Because, again, he was brought here specifically really for the playoffs. He had a good regular season. I didn't have anything against him, but he's going to make his money here in the playoffs. So hopefully he'll be able to do it. So can they win the series? Yeah. I mean, they're also not like if you look in Vegas on the series line, Carolina is favored, but it's not like an impossible task. They're not, I think they're minus 190, which really would mean if you break it down, Carolina would win the series. They're saying 2 out of 3 times.
So they have
awful.
They have a high octane offense. They have a fast offense pressure wise. How's their defense?
Their defense is good. Also, their defense, ironically, is full of a lot of ex-Rangers. Tony DeAngelo, who Ranger fans remember very well from what happened last year. They still have Brady Shea, and they still have Brendan Smith. It's an older defense. They're still. I'm not sure what's going on with their goaltending situation. If they're going back to Freddie Anderson or they're staying with Ronta, I don't think it's been definitively said. Which again, in the NHL, no one's giving away any lineup information ahead of time. Look, I think if either of those two goalies. And I know there's people in the world that are big on Freddie Anderson. I'm not that big on him. I mean, he's a good goalie. He's better than Domingue, and he's better than Tristan Jarry. But he's also not, Henrik Lundqvist here. Throw the pucks at the net. Try to get the pucks in deep. A way to kind of take away the speed game from Carolina going the other way towards you is to keep the puck in your end deep. Then Carolina can't attack if your puck. So pin the puck. Try to work the puck in the zone. The dump and chase didn't really work well in the Pittsburgh series. It's probably going to be a little bit hard to get it working against a speed team like Carolina. So we'll see. You know what? Here's the thought. You have game 1 and game 2 in Carolina. If you say this whenever you want the road team to win, right? Get a split down there. If you lose game 1, get game 2. If you win game 1, get greedy and go for game 2. But if you walk away and you get home ice back, it would be helpful. Now, look, Carolina won twice in the Garden in April. I mean, not too long ago, twice. So I'm not sure that home ice is a big deal in the NHL. I really don't. I mean, look at some of the game 7s, with road teams. But I mean, we'll see.
Let's go
Rangers. Give them credit. I mean, look, I am shocked from that series. I am between the text and a million other things. I'm shocked. But
let's keep it going.
Pick it up tomorrow. Start it all over again. Game one. So you try and steal game 1. So you know what? I mean, here's the thing with Carolina. I say how great they are, and I say how good they've been, and they have. Look, Boston took them to game 7 and lost by 1 in Carolina, and they almost had a flurry there at the end on Saturday night at the end of game 7 where they could have tied the game. They're beatable. They're the better team, but the better team doesn't always win. The Rangers were the better team than Pittsburgh, and I'm not really sure the Rangers should have won that series, but they did. So here we go. So we'll go with that. So going around the league here, it just makes me upset. I wanted, and I've been saying this, I wanted Toronto to get out of the first round finally. I wanted it to happen. I wanted them to beat Tampa. As my son says, and he's right, Tampa won in the last 2 years. Let's get someone else. I wanted them to win the series. I don't know. And I'm watching the game 7 the other night, and it's just such a predictable script. And you feel awful for these fans. And I mean, the Toronto Maple Leaf fans. You have Austin Matthews, who has an insane year with over 60 goals. You have all these guys up there, Mitch Marner, Nylander, Tavares, and they just cannot get out of the first round. I don't know if you're the team president there, Brendan Shanahan, do you hold on to Sheldon Keefe? Because now, Barry Trotz, as we talked about last week, I said I used to have a feeling that guy's going to Toronto. We'll see if I was right before anyone else said that. I mean, if you look now, and Peter DeBoer, who got fired yesterday out in Vegas, I mean, you now have some really good track record coaches out there. Do you stick with Sheldon Keefe and give it one more year to get out of the first round? I mean, this team next year, when Toronto gets to the playoffs, whoever their coach is, whether it's Sheldon Keefe or someone else, the amount of pressure on this team to get out of the first round is going to be ridiculous. I mean, it just gets magnified every year. It just gets worse and worse. So we will see up there. So the other series, Tampa and Florida. I'm going to have a hard time going against Tampa in their experience. They just won a game 7 up in Toronto. I'm going to be on the Tampa train.
Isn't Florida playing really well?
Florida's playing well, but you know what? They could have lost that Washington series. A lot of those games, they came back in some games. It was like the Rangers series. The Rangers advanced, but if you wanted to make an argument that Pittsburgh should have won the series, you could. I could easily make an argument Washington could have won that series. And, the thing with Tampa, they're coached so well with John Cooper. They're battle tested with their goaltender and with Victor Hedman and Stamkos and Kucherov. I mean, you start to think that maybe 2 weeks ago, there were a lot of people out there that didn't give Tampa the amount of credit they deserve because they just went through a 7-game, war with Toronto and came out. So I'm going to go with Tampa in that series. I'm going to say Tampa in 6. I'm going to say they find a way to win it on home ice in 6. Now, the Western Conference is interesting. And I got what I wanted because I told you weeks ago before it started that if Edmonton and Calgary won, their first round series separately, you would have a situation where they would have a battle of Alberta in the second round. Those two teams hate each other. That is easily the best series in the second round of any of them. The battle of Alberta, because remember, Canada as a country has not won the Stanley Cup, any of their teams, since 1993. When you were probably, you would have been what, 8 years old?
Yeah, 8 years old.
I mean, think about that. That's not just the team not winning a Stanley Cup, but you know, I won't get into the discussion with you. Is hockey the national sport of Canada?
It's not as lacrosse,
but you know how big hockey is up there.
Yes.
And the
second sport,
whatever you want to say. And there is no Canadian team has won the Stanley Cup. So whoever wins that series between Calgary and Edmonton, and those two teams hate each other, is going to go to the Final Four to get a chance to win a Stanley Cup for Canada. That is an awesome series. And I am going to pick the upset in that series and pick the Oilers in 7. Because I just think that since the coaching change that they made in the middle of the season with Dave Tippett, things have gotten a lot better up there. And Calgary struggled with Dallas. But Calgary has the coaching advantage with Darryl Sutter because he's won 2 Stanley Cups. That is a great series up there. I am going to go Edmonton in 7. The other series, which I don't think is that exciting at all, and I think will be over rather quick, and that is Colorado and St. Louis. So the one series that I predicted wrong in the first round was the St. Louis-Minnesota. I had Minnesota winning the series. St. Louis won. Colorado is so good, right? They swept through Nashville. They really are. You worry a little bit about the fact that they haven't played in like a week and a half. That's a little bit concerning. I guess if you're a Colorado fan, but look, Colorado is the better team here. Colorado is winning this series in 6 at most, maybe even 5. So I'm actually going to pick Colorado in 5 because I'm going to say that they win the 2 at home. They get 1 game in St. Louis and they come back and end it in 5. St. Louis is the better. Colorado's the better team. So I'm going to say when we get to the Final Four in 2 weeks in the NHL, you're going to have Colorado and Edmonton out west, which would be a very good series because you're dealing with some really offensive juggernauts out there. And then in the East, I'm going to say Carolina and Tampa.
You mean the Rangers?
Well,
the Rangers.
I would I come on here to be honest. And I told you, look, I picked the Rangers in the first round. I either said 6 or 7. I don't remember which one it was. I think I said 7, actually, right?
No, I think you said 6.
Did I say 6?
Yeah,
it was either 6 or 7. I knew it was a longer series. Look, I come on here to be honest. I don't come on here to just be like, oh, well, the Rangers are going to win the series in 4, and I don't care where they're playing next series. They're winning that series in 4, and then they're winning the Stanley Cup in 4.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah.
Let's go Rangers.
So an exciting time in the NHL. Now, for you,
yes,
you have obviously become more into hockey and into the Rangers.
I watched all the games.
You did, and you sent me videos and text and all that stuff, which I was impressed with. Your thought? What is your thought? Because sometimes I get so like immersed. You know, this saying like you're too far in the forest to see the trees.
Yeah.
What do you think of the first round with the Rangers?
I thought this was a very great playoff series all around. The whole round of every I watched a lot of the games. Now I watch a lot of sports, and I will say the NHL playoffs have been a lot more interesting than the NBA playoffs this year. I don't even know who's playing. I don't even know what's going on.
You know what's funny? You say that. I was on my phone this morning. I didn't even realize in basketball, I guess Dallas and Phoenix, who won they had a game 7 the other day at home, and Phoenix lost by 30.
Yeah, I heard about that, but like it wasn't.
It's not
like
hockey right now. Well, if the Knicks were in it or the Nets even, you'd get more press here. So I guess you have the Eastern Conference Finals with the Boston Celtics and Miami Heat, who both those teams I actually hate. And then out west, you have the Golden State. I'm assuming got past Memphis, right? We would have heard if they didn't.
Yeah.
So it would be it would be Golden State and Dallas.
But the big one was Dallas beating
Phoenix
Suns.
Game 7.
And everyone's questioning like, is Chris Paul any good?
Chris Paul is the sort of player now. If you follow the Knicks,
or
you're a season ticket holder like I am, that the Knicks will make a run to get Chris Paul because he's 43 now, probably. And they'll
37.
They'll send you your season ticket envelope in the summer with his face all over it. And you'll sit there and you'll be like, maybe it would have been important if it was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Chris Paul went to Wake Forest, right? I think if I remember back in the day, he was a Wake Forest guy long time ago. But that shows you how old he is, right?
Yeah.
So,
but pretty impressive. Luka is like the only
Luka
Doncic is a good player, and he took out 3 or 4 NBA All-Stars on the Phoenix Suns. outstatted their best rebounder, had more rebounds than their best rebounder, had more assists than Chris Paul, and had more points than Booker.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It will be also, I guess, interesting. I mean, look, if you're in basketball, and do not go on what I say about basketball because I've got no idea. How could you not like the Warriors to win it again, right? I mean, if you're telling me the Warriors and Mavericks and Celtics and Heat, I mean, I guess that's nothing against those teams, but if I was a betting man, I mean, wouldn't you be thinking the Warriors are going to win again?
Yeah, I guess they have the pedigree, but they need to bring in some new talent.
Do you know it was like a year ago this week about that we led this show with the New York Knicks, ironically, because at that point the Knicks had made it back to the playoffs. They had a home series versus the Atlanta Hawks, and tickets were going like crazy. They were hard to get, and everyone was into it. And the Knicks bowed out in 5.
It was 5?
It was 5. Yeah.
I remember it was that Trae Young kid. I don't like
Trae.
Trae.
I don't like Trae Young. Not a fan.
Not a fan.
Yeah, they went out in 5. And in that series, they were not overly competitive. And the thing that's concerning about that series is that was not that I want to get into basketball analytics, because I don't. But Julius Randle, who had an MVP-like season last year, struggled in the playoffs, right? Like, I mean, he was not good. And then the Knicks were out in 5. And really, the rest of this whole year, he struggled. So, that was kind of the tipping point. So, well, we thank you guys for listening. Let's go Rangers here as we move on to Carolina. You now look, if the mission is always, for any team in the Stanley Cup playoffs, the mission is to get to 16 wins. The Rangers now have to get 12 more. They've got 4 down. So 4 down, 12 to go. Let's go Rangers, and we will talk to you next week.